be honest, if you watch a movie knowing the story is based on only a video game, if you're disappointed, you only have yourself to blame.
Whoa, cool.
But why? Why is it that nearly all the movies which are inspired by video games are such critical and box office bombs? Or better yet, why is it that audiences keep going back to watch those terrible movies time after time, knowing that it's just one massive cringe fest?
I'm not supposed to.
Well, the problem with adapting a made-up virtual reality into a movie is that most of the time it just doesn't make sense. Video games have their own rules and laws which govern the systems and mechanics of the gameplay, but those conditions don't really apply in the real world. Even if you have a multi-million-dollar budget to create said world and hire a bunch of random A-list actors. Just have a look at the 2016 movie Assassin's Creed. The fantasy movie prides itself on beautifully crafted action scenes and serious acting from its stars Michael Fassbender and Marion Cotillard, pardon my French, but overall fails to impress because of its ridiculously overcomplicated plot. The movie never clearly establishes the rules of its world. What does the Animus machine do? If Cal gets hurt remembering the memories of his 15th century ancestor, does that translate to him getting hurt in the present day? What does synchronization actually mean? If Callum is unsynchronized, does he get hurt, and why? Make it make sense. If you create a world, you have to at least partially explain the basics of the most important machine in your movie. It's fun to show action-packed scenes, then a cutaway to a moody-looking Fassbender in a modern-day lab, but to do that for 2 hours, too much. Let me give you another example. In the popular Street Fighter video game series, all the characters have their own catchphrases which they say while performing a special move. For example, Ryu would call out Hadouken as he did his trick, causing a wave of smoke or electricity or whatever it was coming out of his hands. Now imagine doing that in the real world. It's awkward, silly, and it feels a bit forced. In the critically panned 1994 video game adapted Street Fighter movie, Australian pop icon Kylie Minogue was cast as a part of Cammy.
Cammy's possibly everything I'm not. And I think it's great that she's a woman in such a powerful position.
So every time Kylie did her special Cammy move, she would shout out Cannon Spike. That's weird. It just reinforces the idea that video game movies are far too comical and they shouldn't be taken too seriously, which is a shame.
I guess you didn't see that, did you?
Video game movies have to make sense. It's not enough to just copy and paste a specific formula from video game to movie and hope the audience can go along with that.
Dude, I don't get it. I don't get it either.
For years, video game obsessed moviegoers have been saying that it is impossible to condense more than 40 hours of gameplay into a 2-hour movie window. 2016's World of Warcraft fell into this very trap, which is why it's trash. The game, which boasts 12 million active players worldwide, has over hundreds of hours of dense game playing content, making it unadaptable. Now, unless you're a World of Warcraft player, I'm not, chances are you're going to have a tough time making sense of all the people, the places, and the artifacts that the movie assumes you are already familiar with, and so it doesn't bother introducing anything. So like me, you're going to be sat down watching that movie not knowing who anyone is or why the Paula Patton has weird gangly teeth and green skin. I don't know. Despite the movie generating profits of over $400 million at the box office, largely due to the Chinese audiences, it was critically slammed and its plot holes angered World of Warcraft fanatics everywhere. Some games are best left unadapted because there just isn't enough time to cover the density of that game. Now, for some reason, Hollywood desperately keeps on trying to create cinematic versions of popular games. Those films usually fall flat when they hope to create a dynamic, interesting movie with a rich plot from a one-dimensional, character-driven game.
What do we think about a sequel? I mean, I felt like the ending left it open for that, right?
I need the money.
Speaking of Hollywood, why is it that the large majority of video game adapted Hollywood movies are never created by people who actually played the game? With its ultra-violence, ripping guitar solos, the highly successful video game Doom helped bring first-person shooters to the forefront of gaming in the mid-1990s. Now, the 2005 movie of the same name, which starred Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, of course, and Carl Urban, included almost none of the things that made that game great. It's a dull watch as viewers go through the dimly lit corridors in a research station on Mars and see some pretty cheesy CGI monsters. And you can even watch it on Netflix now, but I wouldn't recommend it at all. In the popular Assassin's Creed video game series, players roam through the streets of Florence and Rome during the Renaissance. But more than anything, the players get to be part of major historical events and be part of that revolution, which is so important to them. The 2016 movie has none of that, zero. It doesn't even have a time period that you can understand, nor does it have the historical element that audiences can witness. It's like the cheap version of the Lord of the Rings franchise. It makes sense that the movie makes very few references to the popular video game series, as its main stars and director, admitted to never having played any of the games, or any games in general.
I'm more like yourself, in fact, so I hadn't played the game before.
It's high time Hollywood started employing actual gamers to create their huge blockbuster films. Even with huge budgets and an A-list cast, the video game adaptations seem to choose style over substance. Such movies rely on dazzling the viewer with over-the-top visual effects rather than creating a solid script which includes a well-developed plot and characters. Movies like 2008's Max Payne, starring Mark Wahlberg and Mila Kunis, prioritize this. They prioritized visuals over an interesting plot, leaving a movie with great stylistic noir shots, but fell short with lackluster performances from the entire cast.
Get out.
Excuse me?
I said, get out now.
All those examples show that there are many reasons why games don't work on a big screen. Yet, there are some successes, even if not necessarily with critics, definitely within the audiences. One movie which is a personal favourite of mine and seemed to defy all those expectations and requirements is the Mortal Kombat series. The two films, which pride themselves on being so bad that they're good, were created in the 90s by a video game movie veteran, Paul Anderson, otherwise known as the godfather of the hugely successful Resident Evil series. Both films take several cues from the successful video game series and seem to get everything right by following the same story, involving the same characters, both major and minor. Now, die-hard fans, me, and gamers got exactly what they paid for. Even the cheesy undertones and bad acting doesn't sour the movie person's experience. Since its 1997 sequel release, the series has developed a huge cult following and been rebooted a third time for an eagerly anticipated 2021 arrival. Put that on your calendars. No word yet also if COVID-19 has delayed that production. This, however, isn't to say movies shouldn't follow the above points that I've just mentioned. No. Since the 90s, standards have undoubtedly changed. What was once viewed as great then is not necessarily viewed as so in 2020, even if the same formula is rolled out. Gamers have given up hope of ever watching a well-crafted movie from a video game. The general consensus amongst gamers now is that future movies need to do more to capture the heart of the game instead of spending huge budgets trying to make it look more stylized. More care and time needs to be taken to write better, well-developed characters and storylines that don't feel rushed and overcomplicated. It would be great to one day walk into a cinema expecting more than a, yeah, that was alright, from the video game genre. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. It's been Giselle.